Well, we've been on our first wild camp. We used 2 Polish army ponchos buttoned together to make a Lavvu tent. It doesn't automatically come with a ground sheet, so I thought, because from the ground you can get a bit damp, especially if it's wet weather, a ground sheet would be ideal. And the 2 ponchos buttoned together to make the Lavvu make an octagonal shape. So it's very nearly a circular ground sheet, I guess, but it's octagonal. So I decided to use a garden furniture cover, which is a bit like a big bag shape. It's got a flat bottom and steep sides, to make a ground sheet. And this is how I did it.
It's just gone 5:30 in the morning. It's already light. Didn't sleep at all. Not a bit. It was too cold. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did snore as well.
I did,
Yeah.
It's difficult to tell, actually. But, so obviously I did sleep a little bit. But, temp was fine. No rats, always a bonus. But, loads of traffic.
Right, we have one bag that's very similar to this, but it's green, and it's a big, like a rubbish bag. There is actually slow worms in this, so I'm going to be extra careful. So I can show you, it's a bit like a big hippo bag. At the moment we've got an old hose pipe in it. As you can see, it's got a flat bottom and some steep sides, like a great big bag with handles. These straps are often used, but I've got my hand for dragging it because it gets heavy, so it's quite a strong duty sack. The one we've got that I'm going to make into a ground sheet for the Lavvu is green and it's a bit thinner, but that's just to show you how it looked like originally, because I've already cut it up and I'll just show you. It's a ground sheet that we're going to make into a ground sheet from that bag, from the blue bag that I showed you. But we had a green one that I've already started to make a ground sheet out of. That's our Lavvu. Lavvu comes with 2 separate capes. 1, 2. This is the stuff sack that comes with it. And that's the poles. So I've got the pegs chucked in the top of them. Right, get this up on to see that. The pegs actually feed into the end of the pole there. So we're going to put the 2 ponchos together to make a Lavvu tent, and then we're going to make a ground sheet out of that garden sack. So hopefully it will fit the Lavvu well, and it's lightweight, and we can take that with us while camping. This is a circular garden rubbish bag. It has steep sides like this. It was a big bag. We've cut it so it makes a flat mat. The idea is to make this into a hexagonal or circular ground sheet, so we can put our Lavvu tent on top for wild camping. Locally, we live in the south of England, so as part of our sustainability journey we want to do local holidays, and we quite like camping, so we're going to have a go at wild camping. We've done one so far,
but we discovered from that trip that we actually would really need a ground sheet. So we're going to make one out of this recycled garden bag. We've cut the sides down, as you can see. It's too big for the Lavvu widthwise, so the plan is to fold it in, possibly cut that bit off, fold that over as a hem, and with this leftover bit, once it's cut off, to fill in the triangles to make it a really nice shape for under the Lavvu. The Lavvu comes in 2 capes. It's ex-Polish army, so one man has a cape and some poles, and the other man has a tent and some poles. And the idea is for the two men to get together and fasten the 2 capes together to make a tent, and that's what I'm going to do now. That's the bottom of it spread out. Now we're going to undo it and put the pole up the middle. Oh,
It's a bit fiddly.
that's it. Better. Now we need to tighten the pegs.
Right, I've got the tent up, ground sheet in. Just going to check now what the fit is like.
Oh, it's a bit dark. You can't really see. But it's pretty good fit all the way round. One thing I do want to do is these little triangle shapes here. I want to fill them in. So I'm going to cut this flap off and use it to make a patch for this triangle. So then it will make a roughly circular, but with the 8 panels, octagonal shaped ground sheet that will fit the Lavvu right the way to the edges. It will take a bit of work machining these lines with the sewing machine with this leftover piece, but I think it's worth it. Also, if there's not 2 of you camping in the Lavvu, you can actually fold the ground sheet in half and have a double thickness ground sheet in half of the Lavvu towards the back. Some people like to camp on their own. Beautiful sunny day. That was very hot work. See the little triangle marks? I need to patch those up with the leftover ground sheet. And there's 8 little gaps all the way round because it makes a hexagonal shape. Yeah. So that's the plan. Otherwise it's a very good fit. I'm very pleased with that. Right, that's the triangular panel going in. Right, and I've also hemmed it. Going to hem it along here now. Just about to do it on the sewing machine. Hopefully it'll work and it'll end up a fairly octagonal ground sheet. This is a little reinforcement for the little round hole that we're going to put a string through and put the peg, use a peg to peg down the ground sheet. That's why there's a little bit of extra here, just extra thickness, which hopefully will go fairly smoothly through the sewing machine. Yeah, that's fine. That sews beautifully, nice and easy, because it's nice and soft. Stitching's nice and even. It's quite a pleasure to sew actually. Not difficult at all. So just take your time when you're pinning it together originally. Get it as flat as you can. Right, just cutting these long petal things here, look, across. I've cut it so it's the same length as a neighbouring panel. Just fold it up once, twice, put a pin in it, ready to sew. A bit stiff going through the plastic, but that's okay. Once, twice, make sure I've not too much back of it so it's smooth across there. There we are, that's that section hemmed. This is the bit that was left over here. This bit is going to go in there. Want to make sure this bit's as flat as you can get it. It's not going to be perfectly flat because this is a straight line and this is a curve, so it's never going to be perfectly flat, just as flat as you can get it. So this goes in here. See, it just about fits. I'm going to hem it first, like I've done here. It's a pin cushion. 1, 2. Pin. 1, 2. Make sure it's properly straight. Doesn't have to be perfect. I don't do perfect ever. Just, you know, for anybody that's watching, I do the best I can and I accept that for what it is. Because I'm recycling it, so right, that will fit in there. Doesn't matter if these two ends don't match so much, because that's going to be at the end of the ground sheet. What's very important is, see where the cut is here, that's going to need to be reinforced. So they've got to make sure there's enough plastic to put over the top. See, plenty up there. In which case I can actually pin it at the bottom. Before I actually pin this in, I will actually sew this and then sew this, and then I'll have two separate pieces and then I will sew it in. So pretend these two bits are sewn. After that I would pin one that side and one, oosh, that's a bit stiff, triple thickness on that side. Now find out where the top's going to be, just there. So I put my finger over it to make sure I don't get too near the edge of it. Do a lot of sewing quite far each side, just so you've got a lot of reinforcement there for that cut. Yeah, there's plenty of left over, about that much. Right, we've now turned the light on so you'll be able to see a bit better. It's evening now that I'm doing this after work. There we are, pin it there. Just have a quick look underneath. Plenty of space there, look, if I pin this one. So it gives a nice margin. You don't want it too close to the edges. You want a nice overlap there, just to, so it gives it plenty of space for repair. Right, and this side, look, that's where the cut is. So you want to make sure it's at least there. All the way down. When I sew, I'm going to sew it above the top of the cut, just to make sure it doesn't put too much strain on the cut at the top of the triangle. Sew it probably about there. See where the seam goes through here. I'll sew it either above it or even on it to give like a triple reinforcement there on that bit. I think one of the most important things is to try and get it as flat as you can. If it doesn't quite sew right, or, you know, don't be too hard on yourself as long as it does the job. There we are. So that's, once I've sewn these two, ouch, then I'll put that triangle in there. And see, it's quite flat there. I haven't got much space in my living room, but I've tried to flatten it out as much as I can for that bit there. Then when you've done that bit, then you move round to the next bit. I've done about half now. I'm very pleased with it. It's turned out much better than I thought it was going to. Once I've actually done it all, I'm hoping it'll be completely flat and then it will fit nicely inside the tent. I'm looking forward to trying it out. I'm quite pleased actually for such an experiment. Right, I've got a bit of leftover folded over seam bit. That's just double thickness. See where the stitches have previously stitched it, the original bag. I've been cutting squares of this off about this big and sewing them there, because we are actually going to make a hole and a reinforced hole in there with a special thing that grips to make a hole and reinforce it. So you've got that double and then you've got this triple, so that'll be 5, so that'll make it a nice strong anchor point. You don't need it too strong. The holes are quite small, so you intend to put some thread through and push the tent peg through the loop. I'll show you when it's done, rather than the tent peg through the hole. So it doesn't have to be super strong, but it's just nice to do the best you can. So I've got another couple. I'm going to make 2 out of that bit. Just cut that bit in half, very easy to cut. Trim that bit off. Then I'll probably sew it over even again for another thickness, and then sew it on the next panel. So you've got a square panel, triangle panel, square panel. The square panels are where I'm going to put the holes for the reinforced thing. So I'm going to sew that in the middle there before we actually do the metal ring reinforcement. And there's 8 square panels all the way around. So so far I've got 4 of these. When I chop up the triangles here, see along here, look, there's some spare fabric. So that is not going to be part of the ground sheet, so I could actually cut that bit off there, because it's going to be sewn here, but it needs to be stay in place, and down here, which leaves all this spare fabric. So I'm going to cut this bit off and make another patch like this to use as a hole reinforcement. This is how it fits on the edge. I haven't bashed the tent right down to the very edge, but it looks like it's a pretty good fit. If anything, very slightly too big. But make sure when you've got a ground sheet that it doesn't poke out from underneath the tent, otherwise the rain will come in and make you wet. So you'd always check the ground sheet anyway before you pinned it down. I haven't actually pinned it down yet. I'm going to make some holes very shortly, so I can actually put an option of putting pegs in. I guess you wouldn't have to do that. There you go. Just back out, bear with me a second. Right, we've got this tool for making the hole. Then you put this
in the hole and use this tool to squeeze it tight, and then it seals it all the way around so that the metal doesn't come off. That's what we're going to be doing. Now this is the bit that's reinforced here, so I'm going to use that bit. See, extra layers. Put my hole in. So this is the hole. See you later, Carl. Bye. Middle. Squeeze it till it makes a hole. Okay. Goes on there. No, I downloaded it this time.
It seems to be even smaller. It's like getting your ear pierced. Only a little pokey tool to make the hole a little bit bigger, I think.
Right, to make the holes on the ground sheet, make a hole first with the biggest setting on this, then put the 6.5mm needle through the hole, then the 7.5mm needle through the hole to make it bigger still, then put a little round thing on it. Do you know what these are called?
Rivet?
A rivet type thing, a bit like a little crown. Put one of those on.
Eyelet, maybe?
Next, yep, put that through the hole in the ground sheet and then squeeze it tight with these to seal it off both ends. And I'll just film Johnny now doing it for me. Right, that's the reinforced patch of the ground sheet. You can see underneath it where I sewed the extra bit of material. There's quite a few layers there, probably about 5. Using the biggest setting on the hole punch then. Because it's plastic, it's a bit sticky, it's a bit not easy to cut straight through. So Johnny's made a hole there, not quite big enough for the rivet. So then the small little needle through. And the one that's a little bit bigger. Give it a bit of a twist as well so it goes through. There we are. Got a nice neat little hole there now. Pop the rivet in. Put the soft side towards the uppermost side of the ground sheet, and the rough side underneath. Just poke it through the hole. Might need slight adjustment. Sometimes you might have to cut a little bit of the green plastic off with a knife. If you've got one, it's under the backpack. Press it down around the edges, Johnny's doing. Just so it will make it easier when you squash the back flat against the green plastic so it will fit smoother. Bit of an improvisation technique this.
Well, it's such a tight fit because it's plastic. There's little fibres and bits that just get caught in it.
And there's 5 thicknesses of it as well.
That should be right.
So, put those. Give it a squeeze. Try and seal the back. splay the back part so that it'll play on open. There we are, and that's it. That's the holes. We're going to do 8 of these in each square panel around.
And we'll use some
and then we plan to tie some string round to make
some
a
braided
bit of a loop.
nylon.
Braided nylon, which is nice and strong.
And it's
Any colour. It's thin, it's strong. Any sort of cordage, I guess, that gives a reasonable strength. Put that through, tie a knot, and then put the peg in, because the peg won't fit through the hole very well. So that's the plan. Right, this is the finished ground sheet. We found a few holes as we put it out, so we've put a bit of 3M tape on it, got duct tape to seal the few holes. We decided not to put the strings in the holes because it would be a much better fit. Just the tent peg straight through the hole, which fits actually perfectly. We thought the holes might be a bit too small, but no, there's the tent pegs round. So just a quick bit of 3M tape on there, and that's done. Fold it in half again, smooth it out, flip it over to make it flat, fold it up again to make a long thin shape. I would help him, but I'm holding the camera.
Well, I think normally I'd have a little bit of help.
Yes, you would. Long thin shape. And just roll it up. Now, I've made a wide elastic strap to go round. And I'll put the dimensions and the weight at the bottom of the screen. There we are, nice and compact, easy to fit in a backpack, nice and light.